Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Good morning, Michelle. Good morning, Juan. Good morning, Katerina. Good morning, Sacred Owl. Good morning, 145 Club. Hope I didn't miss anybody. So good to see you all. Oh my goodness, this is the beginning, I think, of a very, very interesting and in many ways pivotal week. And so many things that are going on right now are at a state of what appears to be heightened, for lack of a better term. But I want to offer it this way, because sometimes the balancing of a situation can't happen until the zit comes to a head. So I entitled this particular video, oh, Juan, sending love to you right now. I entitled this particular live, The Wound and the Warrior Reconcile, because we're going to see Chiron and Mars meet in Aries at 15 degrees on the same day as the full moon in Sagittarius. So I did a video on the Sagittarius full moon, so you can check that out. It's on my site. But so I wanted to kind of address a couple other things, because I think that Venus is coming into play here, and Venus is holding a T-square with Saturn retrograde right now. So this is important. And I'm just summarizing, and I'm going to kind of go through and be more specific. On Thursday, we're going to see the exact T-square between Venus and Saturn. So this is where I'm going with this, because I think, thank you very much, Sacred Owl. This period of time right now, I believe, with the Sagittarius full moon, the first thing we think of is our belief system with Sagittarius, right? And then we see with a full moon an illumination. But what we're seeing with Chiron and Mars coming together in Aries is, first of all, Chiron's been transiting Aries for quite some time. So when we think about the idea of Aries, it's myself. It's how I project myself. It's the truth of myself. And, I entitled this The Wound and the Warrior, because I think that the warrior is now the hero. And we need to start to rewrite the Aries energy to play to the higher vibration. And I want to offer it this way, because the human says higher and lower, good and bad, but I don't really think of it as a position as much as I think of it as a point of awareness. So when I say higher, I kind of think that the perception gives me a broader view to see more clearly the situation or the dynamics, so that I can then assess and turn them into tools. So let me back up a little bit and start with the beginning of the week, because today is obviously the 12th here. If you're on the other side of the world, it's the 13th. On Monday, we have Venus in Taurus, and it is just transited over Uranus, and it is heading towards the North Node. So to me, this is an important part, because I want to start to think of Venus as a little bit, I want to open things up with her, because many astrologers call Venus a benevolent, and Jupiter a benevolent, and Mars is the malefic, and Saturn is the malefic. And I don't believe these polarizing key terms really give justice to these energies, because Venus in her lower energy is jealous and possessive. And if you think about the two signs that Venus rules, she rules Taurus, which is the sign of my possessions. It's a sign of my history. It's a sign of my voice, but it's also the sign of insecurity. And if we think about what she rules in the way of Libra, there is Libra. Oh, she rules harmony and peace and balance. Libra, in its challenging dynamic, is indecisive and will give up its voice to the partnership. So here, I think this is really, when we look at this week and we take the idea that Venus is near the North Node in Taurus, feeling ravenous to have her voice, to make her own money, to shed the skin of insecurity in its current form, and then use that as use that feeling of insecurity as a way of determining, where is my focus? What am I contributing to in the way of, am I focused on the problem, or am I focused on an open body that allows me to have spirit bring in an inspired idea that then allows me to have an inspired action? Because this is where I'm going with this idea. Venus is also holding a T-square with Saturn. And if we think about the idea that, I think of Saturn now as Coach Boone from the movie Remember the Titans. I honestly, I got to tell you, that inspiration really feels brilliant to me, because the more I think about the movie, the more everything that Coach Boone perpetrated in that movie is Saturn in its highest vibration. So Saturn is in Aquarius. Uranus has just been having a conversation with Venus, and this is a time to get real with myself. This is a time to get real. Am I in some ways holding on to my wound? Because there we go with Chiron. The very next day, Mercury moves into Gemini. So the ruler of the planet moves into it. It gives me an opportunity. What is my self-talk? When we think about Mercury ruling two different dynamics, Virgo and Gemini. In Gemini, it's going to be about my conversation, my persuasion. It's going to be very social. Whereas in Virgo, it's going to be more about the process of things and being of service through the process. So here we talk about now this dynamic of Venus, my self-worth. In Taurus, how do I process my personal history? What do I think about, and what do I talk about when it comes to my story? And am I inadvertently giving life to the old story over and over and over again, which is inadvertently bringing me, it doesn't even, sometimes the situations don't even have to come into focus as much as we will see it superimposed, our viewpoint superimposed on a situation. So I want to offer it this way. As we walk through this week, this is not about judgment. It's not about, trying to say, oh, I should be perfect. I think it's more about the idea of, where is my focus? And is my focus in my Saturnian history? Or is this an opportunity to look at that history, and rather than trying to change it on a dime, going back and finding purpose within it? So now we go to Tuesday, where we're going to see Chiron and Mars have an exact conjunction at the 15th degree, which is the Geminian degree. So this is really the war and the worry, and the warrior and the wound coming together to reconcile. Where am I participating in perpetrating my own wound? When I started studying, well, I shouldn't say start, because I've been studying spirituality for decades. But when Eckhart Tolle came on the scene with The Power of Now, and then Oprah did A New Earth series, I was really fascinated by some of the things that he said, that the brain is like an organ. It's been branded with an experience, and it has a loop to it. So some of our thoughts are in a loop. And it's going to have to be an intentional awareness that helps shift the experience. Because I want to offer it this way. Chiron, we know the story of Chiron. He is the child of, I think you say, Philyra and Saturn. And both these energies, Saturn and Philyra, morphed into horses, and they mated in that form. And when Philyra gave birth to Chiron, she was horrified that her child was half human, half beast. Now, I started thinking about this because Chiron suffered his lifetime with the wound of abandonment, right? Instead of being able to focus on Apollo, taking him in and teaching him all these wonderful things, he's known for walking around with this wound. So I started to think about, wow, okay, so is Chiron really have a wound, or was it Philyra and Saturn that had the wound because they could not accept the child they created? And this energy of Chiron served them in this way. So if we can look at how does our wound serve to give others balance, then we can somehow reconcile that wound. We can't erase the wound. We can't pretend it didn't happen, but we can find the truth, Aries, within it. We can be a hero, Aries, within it, to find how we are participating not only in our own balance, but in the balance of others. I think this is so crazy and important. Now I go back to Venus in this whole thing because, again, I'm such a rebellious little child. I want to love the mean planets and I want to villainize the nice planets, but because I see all the hues and the colors of them, and we are not one thing. So as this full moon, and again, I did another video on the full moon, so you can check that out. But as it comes into play here this week and illuminates what is my deeper belief. And this is where maybe my belief has become branded on my brain, like Eckhart Tolle says, working just like your heart, your kidneys, and your liver autonomously without your participation. And what if in that moment of recognition, you have an opportunity to say, what do I believe about my money, Venus, my ability to make money? What do I feel about my beauty? How do I determine that? How do I determine my self-worth, my history? Does my history pull me under and drown me? Or does my history give me wings to fly? Because I think that these are moments to really recognize divine disruption. And that's where I feel like Saturn is like Coach Boone, because by the time we get to the end of this movie, there is so much beauty at it. And it's really weird because the movie starts with a funeral and kind of ends with a funeral. But the in-between story is where we really can extract those pearls of not only wisdom, but the diamonds that reflect the light that gives us so many opportunities. I truly believe that the soul comes into this experience to play with the universal laws, to come under the veil of unknowing, and then discover these things in the human physical experience, and then implement them and feel them in the material. So as we walk through this week, rather than villainizing yourself, because when we get to Thursday, Venus and the North Node are exact at 22 degrees. And I think it's so interesting how long the nodes are holding pattern at 22 degrees in the year 2022, because this is about coming into cooperation with the ups and the downs, the yin and the yang, the ideas of polarity serving a bigger picture. So rather than villainizing it, it's like, how can I pull my sight up and see it from a more empowered place? Because as that Venus and the North Node, again, the North Node, Rahu, is ravenous to experience what it wants. And in Taurus, it's going to want to experience its ability to make its own money. It's going to want to have a voice in whatever way that shows up, whether it be to speak my truth or to sing my songs. It's going to want to feel beautiful beyond a mask. There's a real deep feeling to this idea. And then this T square we know is a focal point. So these 2 points, Venus and the North Node at 22 degrees, are making this T square to Saturn that's saying, how far are you willing to go? How hard are you willing to work for what you say you believe about yourself? Because when the rubber meets the road and you walk through that karmic choice and you win, there's no turning back. The power you feel, the joy you feel, the inner knowing that connects with your quote unquote higher self is so powerful. And that's why we're here. That's why we have chosen as humans or as souls to inhabit this human body at this time, as we are the ones walking through with our machetes, cutting through the BS in order to really usher in that age of Aquarius and anchor it in. So I'm very excited about these things. They're not easy energies all the time. They're not. But, I want to say this way. When we resist the energy, it becomes much more challenging. Whenever you're in a situation where you're being overpowered by the ocean, by water, the lifeguards will tell you, don't resist, allow the ocean to do what it does so that effortlessly it can bring you back up to the top. The oceans represent our emotional body. So as we walk through this week, if some emotions come up for you that feel like my brain, my Mars and my Chiron, because this is transiting, by the way, so you're going to have to look into your natal chart and see how this relates to you. But I still think overall, if we look at the news and we think about the idea that these transits are happening to countries and to governments at the same way, then we can prepare to hold a certain vibration as others walk through this divine disruption, unknowing that it's divinely guided. Okay, so let's go on to our readings. And for you, those of you that are new to my YouTube channel, on Sundays, I have been going from Pisces to Aries because I wanted to purport more balance. And then suddenly I was inspired to start each reading in the month that it is with the sign that it is. So we're going to go start with Gemini. And when we get to the Cancer new moon, we will start with Cancer. When we get to the Leo new moon, we'll start with Leo, and so on. And if I'm calculating correctly, we should purport some balance. And thanks to Juan, we will have timestamps, so you really don't have to worry about the order. And thanks to Small Wildflowers, we will have a nice, loving room to enjoy every week. Okay, so we're going to start with Gemini. We're going to start with a tarot card, and let's see what your tarot card is for this week. The Eight of Cups. This is a very, very spiritual energy. It is a very emotional, in the sense that it is dealing with my emotional body and a deeper truth that I cannot deny. These cups are not out of balance. They're not tumbled over. Nothing is spilling. And yet we see this character with his walking stick heading out on what looks like a spiritual journey. He's had to walk away, or she for that matter, from what appears to be balanced, but it is not actually serving a deeper truth for this character. The 8 by nature, or in the how I've studied the tarot, the 8, 9, and the 10 are Pisces energy. So again, we're seeing this theme of spirituality. We're seeing this idea that this character has somehow looked at what Neptune has brought up in the way of deception or of imbalance or emotional fog. And this person is being brave enough to walk on a journey. They are not sure where they're going. So let's see what Spirit has to say for Gemini, because Gemini rules the mind and the monkey mind in its very most challenging vibration. It rules our everyday activities, which can become overwhelming to us. If we don't work, we don't make money. If we don't, take care of our kids and make sure they're fed and they're bathed and they get to all their ball games, then we're bad parents. There's a lot of really busy energy in the Gemini dynamic. So this might be about slowing that down a little bit and claiming your space. Welcome, Joe. You're new to the room. Good to see you. Yes, Joe, I think he's going to higher ground so he can get a higher perspective of what is really going on for himself. Because again, the main focus of this card for me is the idea that the cups are not falling over. There's no true trauma here. This is really more of a very deep spiritual inner knowing. There is a here that's saying, if I don't serve me, I don't serve anybody else either. So let's see what the angels have to say. For Gemini, Akasha the teacher shows up. Then we have Fiona in the opportunity or the obstacle. We have Ariel in the angel's advice. And then we have Aurora. Hi, Natalia. Did I say hi, Sacred Owl? I hope I did. I think I said hi to Shelly. I don't want to miss anybody. All right. So we've got Akasha the teacher. And this is, it's interesting because Akasha represents a spiritual teacher. And here I think this is Saturn in some ways, and Venus having this dynamic with the North Node, because the North Node represents what we're stretching for, what we want to experience, but we're not really used to. The South Node represents what our soul tends to bring in behaviorally, lifetime after lifetime. So this idea of Venus being a little bit rewritten, beauty, we tend to, as humans, straight up go to our faces, go to our fannies, go to our, physical being. And I think Venus might be talking about looking at beauty from a whole different place. How do you represent an energetic beauty in this world? So, Akasha, the teacher, Gemini, is being joined by Merlin. Fiona, in the opportunity of the obstacle, is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. Ariel is being joined by the Trust card in the Angel's Advice, and the Bee is being joined by Aurora. This is very interesting because, again, when I go back to the Eight of Cups, we're talking Piscean energy. We're talking about, something. When we think about the idea of the 12th house in Pisces, it rules our ancestors. It rules our past life, it's the last house before we go back into the collective. So I think for my Geminis, this is an opportunity for you. Look, we even have the sun and the moon here together. We're going into a full moon. So I know that you can't show a full moon on a tarot card, but you get what I'm trying to say. The moon and the sun are illuminating something in Sagittarius about what you believe, about your connection to your higher self and what you really believe philosophically. And are you standing within your own beliefs? Because Akasha, the teacher, and Merlin is sort of telling me that there's some sort of disruption, but it's not terrible. It feels like it might be more of a disruption within the way you're thinking because, and this is again where I want to say this week with Chiron and Mars coming together, this feels like a hero energy, to be a hero within my own truth. And it isn't about villainizing anybody else or blaming anybody else, but standing in an awareness or in an epiphany or in an inspired moment. Because Merlin offers balance, justice, and then alchemy as a result of that. And Akasha, the teacher, feels like this is sort of a reconciliation within your own mind that if I don't take care of me and my needs on all levels, then how will I ever help anyone else? Because Fiona, in the opportunity or the obstacle, Fiona is saying, now that you ask God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. And then we have the Lady of the Lake. And, the Lady of the Lake is sitting there holding a sword. What do the swords represent? The way I think. What does Gemini represent? The way I think. She's in a storm. Her hair is flying everywhere. Below her is like almost scary waters, but they're not taking her under. She holds on to her truth effortlessly, but intentionally. And now that she does this, God opens a space. Wow, small. But, I think this is a good thing because Ariel in the Angel's Advice is talking about the Trust card. Sometimes, things are imbalanced, but they're not serving us. Small, this has kind of been what's been going on with you, They're like, okay, but it's not really letting you fly to your high place. So now this Trust card reduces down. Here's my 47, which is a master number 11 when I reduce it down. You're starting to master your thoughts. Gemini, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Because in the final position, Aurora says, you're flying high right now. Don't descend because you will soon inspire others. And this is about your being energy. And your being energy is going to set the tone for what this ends up creating, what the alchemy is. So let me offer it this way. And I want to say this, small, you say you're getting kicked out. So 19 years ago, when I moved into my apartment in Laguna, it didn't happen because everything was hunky dory. And I'm like, ooh, I want to live by the beach. It happened because I was pissed off. It happened because I had experienced a huge loss. And when I did that, I said to Spirit, I want what I want, and you need to make it happen. And here's my list. And you know what? Then I had to follow the breadcrumbs. I had to be brave. I've told you guys this story, I think, before, that while I was experiencing all this disruption, I was living with I moved back to California. I was living with my mother-in-law, I call her, but it was actually my sister's mother-in-law. She was afraid of my cats. We were living in a little bedroom with the cat litter box and the cats. Oh, it was a nightmare. And I'm walking down the street with a Walkman on. That's how long ago it was. And Spirit pulled me, said, go into that bakery and get a job. And I'm like, I don't want a job in a bakery. I don't want to get up early in the morning. I don't want to work with food. I don't want to work in a bakery. They're like, just go. And I'm getting this pull back and forth in my brain, blah, 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 blah. So I decided I'm just going to get an application, shut these people up. Okay. So meaning whoever's talking to me in my head. So I go get the application and I walk out with a job. I didn't want that job, but I took it. It ended up that 4 or 5 months later, after I found out I lost every single thing I own in that move back from North Carolina, they were the catalyst for me getting this apartment here where I live now, 19 years later. I need Gemini to start to claim a bigger picture and get out of your monkey mind every day of what you can see and start to rise above what you can see to what you intend to experience. And I think that's going to really be very powerful because if you think about Gemini, it's super social. It's super, you commingle with a lot of people. So as you walk through this, as you claim this in a more intentional way, then when you get to the side of reconciliation, where you start to live this bigger picture of what you want, oh my goodness gracious, it's going to be amazing. And you will be of such service to those around you when they sit in that same place. Do I stay where I believe it's safe because it's what I can see, but I really hate it? Or am I willing to risk a bigger picture of what I can't see, but what I can intend? All right. Oh, I made myself hot. Okay. Of course she will. CJD, she will find. That's why all this is happening. She's been intending it on an unconscious level. She's probably been Geminian in some way, going back and forth. I love this. I hate this. I love this. I hate this. And then it's all going to shift. No kidding. And that's why this is so powerful, because as little lighthouses all over the world, as we experience these things from our very human bodies, we help other people stand just slightly more brave within their human body. Because really, the main thing we're here to master is our intention, our focus, and what we give life to. And the universe really does not have an emotional body to say, oh, you're a good person, you're a bad person. Okay, exactly, Tiffany. Demand it. You know, that's really actually super true, because I remember being, so I'm working at the bakery now, and I've lived here for about a year, and I'm like, I hate this bakery so much. I had to go to bed at like 3:00 in the afternoon. I swear to God, it was terrible. But anyway, God, I'm so warm now. But so I stood out on that balcony right there, and I yelled at the universe. I'm like, sick of this, and I want a job, blah, 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 blah. And I swear within like 2 or 3 days, this all, like, I got a contact, and then things started to move in a new direction. It was all happening in 2003. Yeah, absolutely. So you know what? And I want to say this too, because if you get mad and you cuss at the universe, don't worry about it. Nobody up there cares. That's, again, human made. Oh my God, I'm having such a hot flash. I'm sorry. Okay. We're going to go on to our Cancers now, everybody. But this is what I want to say, small. Don't go there. Don't look at the doubled rent. Don't look at your check. When I moved into my apartment in Laguna Beach, I was making $12 an hour. And I remember thinking to myself, well, at least I work in a restaurant. I'll be able to eat for free. You've got to give the universe an opening. And in that opening, they will give you an experience. And then you got to be brave to step through it and know that they will align everything. And the more you just keep putting your focus there, the more you're like, you know what, Spirit, I'm having trouble, but I'm standing here. Help me anchor myself. And just that gets, like, you got to think of it like a wheel. Starts off slow. And the more you can start to give life to it, the more that creates a momentum. And then you don't have to work so hard at it. If you watch Remember the Titans, okay, this is a fabulous movie, all right? In the beginning, Coach Boone is basically under the gun. If he loses one game, he's out. So the idea of integration, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the movie, but the idea of integration is like a big lie. Everyone's pretending. And so he's just so Saturnian, he's not going to give up. And then all of a sudden, the town starts to rally and everybody starts to rally. And we know how it plays out. If you've seen the movie, and if you haven't, Watch it because it will give you an inspiration. All right, let's go on to our Cancers. So the show isn't like 9 years long. Okay, here we have my Cancers, the Fool. Now we know that the major arcana cards always represent a very powerful energy. This particular one is the beginning of the hero's journey through the tarot, through the major arcana. So I want to offer this as Mars. And Mars is conjunct Chiron this week. So, are you willing to have a little bit of faith in the universe? Are you willing to stand in that very beginning of the journey of a new experience? And are you willing to not walk off the cliff per se, but rather allow yourself the privilege of being the pioneer, of being sort of led by a bigger picture? Because, we as humans think he may walk off that cliff, but we don't know if he's going to actually fall. So here we go, Cancer. Nikki, just for the sake of it, I have started a new lineup. I'm starting with the sign of the new moon. So we started with Gemini. I'm on the second sign, Cancer. I'm not going to get to Aquarius for a while. All right. So the Fool, where does Spirit want Cancer to be just slightly more naive? To look at things from, there's a lot of sunshine here. This is not a scary card. I know he's heading towards the cliff, but where's your focus? Is it on the adventure he's about to have? Or is it on the fact that he might fall? Okay, here we go. Cancer, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. I was talking to Juan. I called Juan yesterday because I was so excited. I listened to Ksenia do her recent video, and she was focusing in on the moon, and I was like, oh my God. I never hear anybody focus in on the moon except me. So I'm really excited. So again, you guys, moon first, then your rising, then your sun, and if you have a stellium, that's super important. So pay attention to that. Ooh. I do too. I love her wheel. I bought a wheel and I've never even used it because it's okay. Not her wheel. I bought something on Etsy. I should have just gone and bought hers. All right, here we go. We're sending lots of love to you, Small, so you can be brave in your thought process about this change. Okay, the Fool is being joined in the foundational position by Francesca. What are you visualizing, Cancer? Negativity will block your progress. Adriana is leading you towards the answers to your prayers. Vanessa is saying, are you going to base your decisions on faith or fear? And the final is Serena about abundance, and abundance in money and resources. And right now, it seems almost like there's some weird boomerang effect ever since 2020 started. There was all this generosity purported, all this money being offered to all of us. And now it feels like everything has gone skyrocketing and the money's coming back out. But that doesn't mean that we get to align to that dynamic, because again, everything has its opposite, with the law of polarity. So where do we want to stand vibrationally within that? Because when we plug in to what we know on an intuitive level, we completely change things. So do you want to represent the more challenging dynamic, or are you willing to be brave and say, hey, what if I represent the solution? Let's look, Cancer, because abundance and serenity go hand in hand. Francesca is being joined by the High Priestess. Adriana is being joined by the Disruption card. Vanessa is being joined by the Deer. And Serena's being joined by the Novice. Okay. Cancer's the sign of nurturing, the sign of motherhood, right? We think of it that way. And the minute we say the word mother, we think of nurturing outside of ourselves. The most important way that we can actually nurture others is to represent nurturing of ourselves. And I think that this is where maybe the Fool is talking about. Maybe this is a little bit of Cancer allowing themselves on an intuitive level to move in a direction that actually serves their emotional body. Because the High Priestess is here, and they're There's Francesca. And when we think about the idea that Cancer nurtures others, that, I can't help but think that's the mom that always eats the cold meal. That's the mom that feels like she's always wearing a t-shirt with spit up on it. And I feel like this is a different idea right now. This is an opportunity to look and see Venus in next to the North Node, conjunct the North Node, exact on, this week. And then this idea of Uranus coming around and giving you an opportunity to liberate yourself and to start to connect to this idea of an intuitive body. Cancer's a very intuitive sign, but I don't think it recognizes it all the time. I think sometimes Cancer inadvertently pulls themselves under this, into that crab crawl. And I think if you start to rewrite how you view yourself, and maybe this is where the Fool comes in. Maybe this isn't an actual adventure that you walk on, but rather a perception that you adopt. And maybe it may feel like you're walking off a cliff, because if you don't take care of others, who will? They will take care of themselves, because there's a divine disruption that's leading you to a much more loving energy, a much more, I want to offer it this way. Cancer, if you feel depleted and you don't feel loved, or you don't feel like there's an even exchange of energy, then any of the nurturing you're doing for somebody else isn't really very good for you or them. And I want you to start to see the wisdom of your own self-care, because in the angels' advice, we have them working on your fear. Vanessa's saying, are you going to make your decisions based on faith or fear? And then there's the deer. And I think there's a little deer in the headlights because of the disruption card here. So as I've aged, 62 and a half years old now, I've really started to say, if something is like keeps butting up against a roadblock or hitting a wall, or I'm not getting anywhere in any situation, especially if it's a relationship, if I'm carrying a lot of I'm always doing the calling, I'm always doing the reaching out and connecting, maybe it's time to reevaluate that a little bit and then step back. Because while Serena represents literally money, I think this is serenity now. I think this is about sort of your serenity being super important to you and making this a priority so that it can calm any negativity and you can reach for a new, more higher elevated. And I use the word higher, but I hate it because I think it represents some sort of achievement. And I don't mean it that way. I mean it location foresight wise. I watch Expedition Bigfoot. I watch the weirdest stuff on TV. And, they're always trying to get to higher ground so they can see better. This is what I'm talking about. Cancer. It's time for you to see the wisdom of your own self-care. It's time to see that if indeed you have been nurturing others in a way that's feeling depleting, then your wound will not be reconciled until you discover that it's self-care. Mars and Chiron coming together in Aries transit. I don't know where it's going to hit you in your chart, but Aries squares you naturally. So there's going to create some friction, but it's okay, because the friction is an illumination at the 15th degree of how your mind has been running in a loop, and the loop has been disempowering. So now you allow for a new experience, and then you engage spirit. Thank you for helping me to have experiences that anchor in that when I take care of self, I am still embraced by those that I love. All right, let's go on to our Leos. Leo. And I want to offer this when I talk about self-care, because lately I've been doing a lot of more videos. I think you guys probably even noticed that. And the reason I'm doing that is because I have a bigger vision of things. Now, as I work on my bigger vision, my everyday life feels a little dry. Doesn't feel like I have the same flow of cash that I've been having. I could let that freak me out, but I can't get there if I'm still running around in this circle. So I have to kind of decide if I want to work for the money I can see or the money that I'm inviting in. So I want to offer that too. And I'll use the word money, but it could be just abundance in general. Anything that feels warm and fuzzy. All right, Leo, here we go. The Queen of Swords. All the queens in the tarot deck are about nurturing. It's about, the higher vibrations of the feminine experience and reception and receiving. And I note that this particular queen holds her arm up as if she's inviting in intentional thought. And then we have this little bird flying right above her crown chakra. And I think this is beautiful because I feel as if this is saying for Leo, there's a part of you that gets to sort of, if you look at the chair, on almost all the chairs of the queen, there's a little character that sits underneath them. And I think that could be the ego. And we never want to squash the ego. We just want to think, where is the ego edging God out? And God being represented as an energy that is abundant, an energy that brings in whatever it is I focus on. So now Leo, as the king of the zodiac or queen of the zodiac, and as the sign that represents fun and entertainment and giggles, children laughing, romance. I feel like this is about focusing in on that. And let's see what they have to say as far as what the direction is. But whatever it is, it's going to be, because there is a butterfly underneath that little cherub. And I feel like that little cherub might be this little fight between the queen who knows who she is or he is, and then the back and forth of the human experience. I can do it. I can't do it. I have the money. I don't have the money. I'll get the job. I won't get the job. I'll get the relationship. I won't get the relationship. All right, here we go. All righty. Let's see where we're focusing our thought for Leo. Our first angel is Rosetta. The second is Celeste. The third is Layla. And the final is Oceana. I really want to emphasize that focused thought does not mean being perfect. It doesn't mean like, oh, I don't have any trepidation, or I don't have any worry, or I don't have any concern. It's not about that. It's about being gentle with yourself as you walk through those human emotions. And then I don't even want to use the word push, but it comes out, push them aside to let spirit give you a new experience. So let's see what Rosetta is talking about. Rosetta represents children, teaching, parenting. Leo rules children. Okay, then we have the burden. So this is about your inner child. Celeste is being joined by the Fear card. Layla's being joined by the Grail Knight. And Oceana's being joined by the Joy card. When I look at this, Leo, the first thing I kind of felt is there could be a potential that whatever Venus is doing in its T-square, it's going to, the Venus, hold on, let me back up a second. As Venus becomes conjunct with, what day is it? I think it's Thursday. So as she starts to, Thursday. So as Venus starts creeping towards the North Node and it's making a T-square to Saturn, it could inadvertently create a burden on Leo for what you want. You could start to feel it drying up a little bit, but I want to offer it this way. It isn't about trying to pretend the drying up isn't happening. It's more about the surrender during the process, because when I see Rosetta and the burden card, I feel like you're having trouble holding that childlike innocence that everything will be fine. The nurturing thoughts that actually create the outcome I want. Because we have Celeste talking about moving to a new home or a new place of employment. And then we have the Fear card. And this could be literally that Leo wants to get a new job, wants to move, but it also is the way you're thinking, because wherever you are, you have a certain thought process. So now I want to offer it this way. Leo, what if this particular Sagittarius full moon is illuminating something that is removing a deception, a secret, a fog that was not serving you? Because there might be a sense of illusion in some respects. And I want to offer it this way. The illusion may be coming from this burden here. Like there's a part of you, this is how I kind of want to put it. Sometimes, Leo's the king, Leo is fixed, Leo is strong, and Leo will roar. And maybe there's a little something where you've been experiencing something again and again and again, and now you're roaring because you want someone to acknowledge your pain or your discomfort or your burden in some way. And what if in that acknowledgement it inadvertently is stoking it, and we don't want to stoke it, because this fear thing means to me is a little bit about face everything and rise. Because if indeed I'm connecting with spirit and seeking the sacred within myself, am I not participating in some ways through my thought process? The human is always participating, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. Because for my Leos, it's time to get out of your head and just maybe, even if you don't know it right now, just let yourself have some fun. Let yourself sort of go. When I look at the joy card in Oceana is always about a soul's knowing, something that's rising, that's bigger. There's this underlying nagging. And this is kind of where I want to go back to the idea of Eckhart Tolle and A New Earth, and talking about the brain being branded with a certain experience, and that you can't stop the branding of it. All you can do is have an awareness of the branding and then decide if you're going to continue to focus on the branding. So that's what I think is going on here, because I don't think this is outside of yourself. Not every Leo I'm going to talk to has children. So I'm talking to the inner child, and maybe you're just too much in your head. And let's think about Leo rising, right? So Leo rising makes Scorpio your fourth house, which means the South Node is transiting your fourth house and the North Node is transiting your 10th house. So there may be some challenges going on with how you're perceiving nurturing, and if you do not give to yourself, can others give to you? I know it's annoying to hear that. I know it's annoying to hear that we teach people how to treat us, but unfortunately, it's just true. So I want to offer this. Leo, give yourself an opportunity to surrender to your thoughts. Let them ebb and flow. There's no point to pushing on something and condemning yourself for it. Just let it blow in and out. All right, let's go on to our Virgos. Alrighty. Okay, Virgo. We have the Justice card. This is a beautiful card. This represents Leo. This represents balance. It represents harmony. It represents fairness. Let's see where is this coming in? Because this could be inadvertently, because if we think about Sagittarius rules justice as well. So there could be, and we look at the scales and we think Libra, but we can never forget that Sagittarius rules judges and Libra rules cops and law enforcement and lawyers, I think. Let's see what's going to come into balance for Virgo. Our first angel is Mystique. The second is Athena. The third is Azure. And the final is Celeste. Wow, a lot of Celeste coming out here. Joe, I think maybe you just need to put your line up with the idea that the universe will provide everything you need to be able to enjoy your property in California. All right, here we go. Virgo, where is Mystique wanting you to keep charging ahead? To sort of, I always think of Mystique as that song from Gloria Estefan's Coming Out of the Dark and Into the Light. Let's look and see. The Grail Knight is joining Mystique. Merlin is joining Athena. Azure's being joined by the Mystery card. And Celeste is being joined by the Protection card. This is very interesting to me. I feel like We talk about this Sagittarius full moon has a lot of oomph behind it. It's a super moon. It's going to be very close to the earth. It's going to affect our physical bodies, just the way it affects the tides and our emotional body. And I think this is about somehow Virgo being validated. I feel like somehow a sense of justice is coming in. Maybe it's a pat on the back. Maybe it's, a coworker was taking credit for your hard work, and that's going to be illuminated and changed. And I feel as if it's part of you is sort of, Virgo in its dark side can be very critical. Okay. And can be very sort of, I don't know. I think of this one woman that I know that she's just a judgy lady, and she's very Virgonian. And when she decides she doesn't like you, she just starts picking you apart like there's nobody's business. No offense to Virgos, but this is where I'm going with this, because I feel like now is the time to sort of Jesus take the wheel. I know that people hate that saying, but let your hand off the wheel so much, because I feel as if there is justice coming that you don't have to purport. You don't have to do anything about it. It's going to come. And it's going to create an illumination. And your job is to just keep staying the course while the illumination of the deception or the lie or the something's coming up in the way of, how can I phrase it? A deceit, maybe. People who lie, but they don't actually straight out lie. They just leave important information out. That might be part of it, because here again, we see Merlin representing justice. That goes back to what we were saying with the justice card, balance. And it's safe for you to lovingly assert yourself, Virgo. But I don't think this is about talking about it. I think this is standing in the vibration that you are going to win. This is the angel's advice. Azure says your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have patience and faith, and don't try to force it. And this is the choice card. Okay, so this is what I want to say, because at the end of the day, here we have the opportunity for a new job or a new place of new home. And there's the protection card. And the protection card is a 38, which reduces down to an 11, which is thought. So I want to offer it this way. Whatever's going on in Virgo's life right now, whether there doesn't have to be an outward change as much as something can potentially shift. And if there's been disruption or people who were, how can I phrase it, competitive in the work environment, everybody's getting really nervous lately. Gas in California is up to like $6.85 a gallon or something ridiculous. I'm so glad I don't drive, because I feel like something's going to play itself out. And you standing in this sort of, I know what's going on. I don't need to push. I have a sword in my hand and I'll use it if I need to, but I'm not going to wield it unconsciously. And this is where I want to go back to the idea that transiting Chiron and Mars coming into alignment in an exact degree, they're fusing together. So somewhere there's a potential of a hero coming out here. This is not about Mars the warrior. This is about Mars the fireman. This is about Mars the brave one who goes into trouble to help save others. So now this is about you saving yourself and knowing that when the time comes, the universe is going to have your back. So trust on that. All right. Let's go on to our Libra. Oh my goodness. That's crazy, Nikki. I swear. I one time heard, I don't know if I heard it from a lecture I was listening to, but I heard that gas was going to have to get super expensive before people would buy electric cars and they would change the energy. But I don't know where I heard that. Could have been on news radio. All right. Here we go on to our Libras. I've already sang. Our tarot card is the Page of Thought. Now, this is interesting here, okay, because I really want to go back to the idea that Venus rules Libra. And while everybody thinks Venus is all nice and all, she brings money and abundance and beauty, she's jealous sometimes. She's vain, and she can be a little passive aggressive her own way. So I want to offer it this way because as Venus and the North Node come together and Venus is cruised on past Uranus, this could be an illuminating thought, an electric thought that aligns you to a different place of how you view yourself. I'm a Libra sun, Aries rising, and a Taurus moon. And so, I find myself vacillating between the idea of how can I phrase this? I feel as if for my Libras right now, when I look at this Page of Swords, it's about commanding your thought. It's not about judging it or condemning it, but being aware of it. And if you're being authentic in your thought, if your thought is, if I'm not beautiful, if I don't have certain possessions, I'm not viable to others, then there's going to be a big breakup of that. So let's see where this is going. Oh, really? So maybe this is CJD. Maybe that's part of the, the whole pinch with the gas prices. All right. Well, Serena just flew out of the deck. Of course, we always take the cards that fly out of the deck. So she'll be our first angel. And while she represents abundance and money, she also represents a vibration of trust and serenity. Because I want to offer this, 62,000 mechanics may lose their jobs, but I wonder how many of those 62,000 mechanics are even enjoying being a mechanic. And if indeed they are, can they parlay somehow their skills, or can they allow this disruption to lead them into a new direction that's more authentic? All right, here we go. Serena in the opportunity or the obstacle. Well, I'm sorry, Serena's in the foundational position. She's being joined by Fiona in the opportunity or the obstacle. Xana's in the angel's advice. And Ariel is in the final position. Serena's being joined by the burden card. Fiona's being joined by the focus card. Xana's being joined by the risk card. And Ariel's being joined by the goblin. Okay, I want to offer this to my Libras. There's a feeling here of an awareness of thought and awareness of not feeling balanced potentially. And I'll offer it this way because I feel as if this particular, the pages are the infusion, like the newness of an energy, the newness of my awareness of my thought. And I can't help but look at the ponytail because the ponytail is in motion and it's in high motion, which leads me to believe that this particular character has been swinging his sword back and forth. And maybe now this is a time to start to have some intention with my thought, because I think this is about Libra feeling a burden, not being able to feel serene, not being able to feel connected with that sense of security. If we think about Venus transiting Uranus, it can make you very nervous about money, actually. And the North Node is going to heighten everything. So I feel as if Spirit is saying to my Libras, God's in charge of everything. And all you really get to do is be aware of your focus. And if for some reason you can't be aware of your focus, sit back and allow us to illuminate for you a direction of focus, because now is time for Libra to realize that you're being protected as you risk a bigger picture. And I want to offer it this way, because whenever we look at the swords, we're going to see thought. We're going to see how thought creates balance and how balance creates justice, because the burden that Libra may be feeling right now, and I wouldn't be surprised, is really edging God out. Ariel talks about new psychic and spiritual experiences changing the way you view yourself in the world. And the goblin is saying, I don't see them anymore. I can't see them. And I think that there is I almost want to say it this way. I do this work all the time. I meditate constantly. Do I have big, huge energies running at me like burning bushes telling me this and that? No. How spirit talks to me is through subtleties, through things I notice. And then I sort of engage spirit and say, are you giving me a message? Am I to pay attention to that? I watched Field of Dreams again last night, and I love this movie. I purchased it on demand, and I've seen it probably 10 times, 20 times throughout my life. I never noticed that in the very beginning of the movie, Amy Madigan says something that is pivotal for me as an individual. And I just noticed it. And when I noticed it, I could have thought, oh, what a coincidence, but I didn't. I asked Spirit, is that a sign from me? Is this somehow trying to bring a reconciliation about for me to know something bigger? Because I feel like this is for Libra to stop weighing the scales of what you've seen in your experience and start intending and focusing in on what you want to experience, and actually take this moment to risk and think, maybe I am being protected as I walk through this divine disruption of my own mind, edging God out, edging the universe out, edging source energy out, edging out the universal laws that know that nothing stays the same. Everything changes. So bad things can change to good, not just good things change to bad. So I really want to offer that for my Libras. I want you to stretch this week to look at your ruling planet and see if indeed, if she's standing in a wobble for you, if she's standing in a place where I'm not sure if I really do feel secure about myself, or if I feel beautiful, or I feel abundant, then ask her to step into a higher dynamic. Ask her to adopt a willingness to implement Saturn square. Am I willing to persevere even though I don't see any benefit right now, or I don't see anything changing right now? And as you continue on, Saturn will reward you, and not in a frivolous way, but in a deep, rich, long-standing way. All right, here we go. On to our Scorpios, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Joe, I bet you that so many things will be changed within 6 years. Uranus is going to have moved into Gemini by then. We're going to see technologies appear that had not appeared before. We're also moving very strongly into the age of Aquarius. So we're going to have a much more stronger focus on reclaiming and replenishing the earth. A lot of the concepts that we've talked about for decades that I've been alive will be actually implemented by the generations moving forward. Okay. All right, Scorpio, we have the Wheel of Fortune here for you. Now, this is very interesting because if we notice this wheel, it's always going to go up and go down, but we see that sword in the Sphinx's hand up there. Once again, here we are seeing that thought sits at the top of the wheel. How will I proceed? Did y'all hear that, motorcycles? Okay, because if we look underneath, there appears to be a demonic character at the bottom of the wheel. I don't know if it's demonic or not, but it does feel a little bit challenging. So I want to offer the idea that the Scorpio, being a master of thought, this is the number one. This is the idea that, here I sit. When I know what I'm thinking, when I'm aware of what I'm thinking, I don't have to be perfect at what I'm thinking. I just get to be aware, because this is the beginning of that momentum as it gains traction. So let me offer this too, because in the teachings of Abraham will say it takes 17 seconds before manifestation even gets off the first platform. So you have 16.5.9 seconds to actually sit in your misery if you want. But if you want to experience something different, then you being able to not always be perfect at what am I thinking, but engage in the universe, Scorpio, to give you a new picture of things. Work with me. I can't anchor my thoughts just yet. So help me by giving me an experience that supports this inner knowing or this potential thought. My grandmother was a Scorpio as well. My grandmother loved astrology. I feel like my grandmother was a very repressed woman. As much as I loved my grandfather and I loved him more than any human on earth, I was very acutely aware that I was very lucky to be his granddaughter, because if I'd been his daughter or his wife, he would have been very Saturnian with me, and he was not. He was actually very open with me. But with my grandmother, oh my goodness. And my grandmother was like full-blown artist. She was a musician. She was an artist. She was born in the early 1900s. So she was very repressed as a woman. It was kind of sad. Okay. Scorpio, our first angel is Victory in the form of Omega. Then we have Celeste again. Oh, big shift in the way people are thinking. Let's go. Here we go. Then we have Layla. And then we have Merlina. This mastery of thought is going to really bring in, and I want to offer this way, because the mastery of thought is not always being aligned. The mastery is the ebb and the flow. The I'm stuck. Oh, maybe it's time to take a nap. I don't have an inspired thought. Oh, maybe it's time to go run. Maybe it's time to go have a meal, have a cocktail, have fun. And then in that relaxation, boom, an inspiration comes in. Okay. All right, Lee. I'm on Scorpio. Okay. Scorpio, Omega is being joined by the partnership card. Celeste is being joined by the Raven. Layla's being joined by the communications card. And Merlina is being joined by the burden card. So we know that Scorpio is a fixed sign. We know that Scorpio digs deep. Scorpio knows, can see behind the mask. And on some level, this is a wonderful gift that Scorpio gives us. It can also be used as a weapon. So I want to offer it this way, because when I look at this now, I think this really is about thought. I think in order to be at the top of the wheel, I have to start to really imagine what I want. And I think this partnership is coming in, is not about another human being, but coming into partnership with your dreams and your desires. There's a certain person I know that works extremely hard all the time and is a very, very giving human being. Hello, Juan. And, he loves his naps. And I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of his naps. And I'm a big fan of anything he gets to do that provides him joy and relaxation, because he is always providing so much service. So this is kind of where I'm going with this idea. Thank you, Juan, for letting me use you as an example. But I think this burden or this victory comes because you come in partnership with what you find makes you feel like you're sitting at the top of the wheel. And I think that the timing is set right now for there to be a magic in the shift of the way you're thinking. Scorpio, rising moon, sun, and stelliums, because I think this is time to really dig deep into your communication with spirit. Because as a fixed sign, sometimes you may be it's sort of that darker side of Scorpio is going to dare the universe to do something different. And I don't know if the vibration of the dare is going to really serve you, because Merlina offers us magic, but there's the burden. And I think that might come because of all the signs, honestly. Scorpio rules transformation. Scorpio rules death and rebirth, and the death of I need to see it to believe it is what's on the docket right now. If we think about the idea of Chiron and Mars, your ancient ruler Mars is a deeper truth. You are a powerful being, and it's not just about being overpowering to others. It's not just about the intensity outside. It's allowing the intensity on the inside to transform to intention. Oh my God, I just got hot again, because I think this is super powerful for you, because there's so much strong leadership here. And I think the leadership doesn't come from telling other people what to do. It's more about watching you as you transform whatever wound you feel. And I want to offer it this way because, throughout my whole life as an Aries rising, I have been, and my Mercury is in Scorpio and Neptune is in Scorpio for me, and my Power of Fortune is in Scorpio. So I'm like a natural psychologist. And my dad used to drive my dad freaking crazy. He'd be like, can you just have a frivolous thought? Can you just relax? And I'm like, no, I really can't. And I kind of feel like at the end of the day, as I learn how to use that energy, it becomes more of a noble tool, a noble energy to purport. So I want to offer my Scorpios, as we walk this week through this full moon in in Sagittarius, which is a super moon going to illuminate your beliefs about things. And as you come in partnership with whatever you find joyful, whatever you find cool, fun, and whatever you want to do, and as you allow yourself to truly shift the way you're thinking, Celeste for me is for the most part a thinking tool, because you could give me a new job, you could give me a new home, but I have a way of perceiving things, and that's not necessarily going to shift because you plop my physical body in a new location. So here, I'm putting my intention, Layla, and I'm communicating to spirit in bringing forth what I really, really want in the way of joy, in the way of fun. And if you come into this place of feeling burdened because nothing is happening yet, then it's time for you to go back and say, okay, I get to put more energy into my thought process as the universe starts to move the components around to put what I want into the physical experience. The human is told work hard, eat right. If you really look at the subliminal message of what the human the constant input, you're never doing it right. You're never achieving. So I think this is about shifting that and starting to think that, well, you know what? I've done my part. Now maybe there's another energy that has to come in to put things into play so that I can move to the next level. Okay. I hope that made sense. It makes all sense to me in my brain somewhere. On to our Sagittariuses. This is your moon. Although the focus of today's live is not on the moon because we have the video I already did. So we're focusing in on the idea of the Chiron and Mars conjunction in Aries. And we're focusing in on Venus and her conjunction with the North Node and the T-square to Saturn. All right. Whoops. Sagittarius. Well, here we have. This is your night. It's time to gallop up into inspired ideas. Oh my goodness, this makes me so excited when I look at it. I feel like there's the potential too of a trip for you. I don't know why I want to put it there, but here we go. I think really letting this full moon illuminate an excitement within you. An inspired idea, the idea of new growth. Look at this wand. I feel as if this is really fun because, while people talk about full moons being the conclusion of things, most of the time we inadvertently interpret that as negative. And what if it's the ending of indecision, the ending of a lack of inspiration, an ending of being able to see things from a higher perception? Let's see. Sagittarius, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Xana. You're being protected. The second is Bridget, looking deeper into a situation. Ariel, connection with spirit. And Seraphina, happy change coming. I think it's important to pay attention to those, Juan, because I think the progressions are, we never pay attention to, look at how the human goes back to their natal chart, no matter how old you are. How funny is that? We're married to those dynamics. They're just the landscape of what we started with. And our progressions are our opportunities as we move forward to implement what we have integrated. Xana is being joined by the love card, Sagittarius. Bridget's being joined by the protection card. Very interesting. Ariel's being joined by the victorious bee card. And Seraphina's being joined by the fire fairy. Wow, wow, wow. This is so cool. So this is your new moon. I'm sorry, your full moon. And I want to say this because Xana is the angel of protection and there's love. And I want to offer this because I don't know, maybe it's partnership, but I don't know if it's partnership because I felt like I love my inspired ideas. I'm excited to move forward. I'm excited to start to look into implementing these ideas. And I feel as if the Mercury retrograde may have made you feel a little locked up. I don't know why I'm going there, because Bridget and the protection card, now we see two energies of protection. So let me offer it this way. I have endeavored certain things and tried to create partnerships with people, and it, one obstacle after another. And I was at one point I was frustrated. I'm like, why won't this just happen? If this would happen, then this would happen, and I'd be able to move my story forward. I think Spirit had bigger plans and I didn't know it, because if there's been a stall, you're being protected from a smaller version of what you could potentially create. And I think that's what you get to look deeper into. Wow. Because here's victory in the form of the bee. It also makes me feel like it's not even just about your attitude right now, but about being sort of like a bee going from flower to flower as Spirit leads you to further and further inspirations. Because Seraphina talks about a happy change, and then we see the Fire Fairy, which is about creative action. It's about optimism. Fire Fairy rules Sagittarius. So I think this full moon may be the ending of where you've been holding yourself back on some level, and now you're just sort of willing to say, you know what? Let's go for it. And in doing so, I think you're going to find some success and I don't think this is the end of the story. For some reason, it feels like it's the beginning of the story, the end of indecision, the end of trepidation, the end of not believing in yourself. And I want to offer it this way, because as you Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums move through this dynamic of being inspired, trusting that the universe, anything that's been blocked is the universe sort of redirecting you into a more fertile ground, then you are representing for others who, when they're standing in indecision, rather than trying to push up against the thicket, will allow Spirit to illuminate a new path. I like it. All right, let's go on to our Capricorns. Me goats, me goats, me goats, me goats. God knows I love my goats. Saturn's heading back towards my Chiron, by the way. So I'm just saying, Saturn, be nice to me, Coach Boone. Be nice to me. I'm doing the hard work. All right. Capricorn. Well, isn't this interesting? It's a have and a have not card. The 6 of Pentacles. Now, this is so interesting to me because the person who's not looking like he's getting any attention, the scales of justice are sitting over his head. And when I look at this, I wonder if on some level, while this person is still sitting in need, maybe this person believes that help is coming and this person is focused on the lack of help, which is why the scales are sitting above his head, because it is just, according to the universe, to give you what you put out in the way of your thought. Let's see. My sister has Mars in the 12th house. That girl can fall asleep on a dime. I swear to God, anywhere. Anywhere. I don't have that privilege. All right. Capricorn, our first angel is Bethany, self-care. The second is Grace and Antoinette, compassion. The third is Isabella, yes. And the final is new ideas and protection during those new ideas. Let's see what else we got going on here. So, Capricorn rules history, rules old things. And I feel as if when I look at the 6 of Pentacles, maybe this is an opportunity for Capricorn, because again, Capricorn has a stoic energy of persevering through pain without thought of self. And I think that that's kind of the wrong way to go. So here we see the dog and Bethany being joined together. We have the novice and Grace and Antoinette. We have Isabella and the focus card. And we have Isaiah and the bee card. So we've watched Pluto transiting Capricorn, tearing things up, breaking up all those old structures that aren't serving you. And now we see your ruling planet, Capricorn, Saturn, making a T square to Venus. I think it's time to start to think in different ways for yourself, to start to think that, have I been purporting a have not energy for myself in some sort of stoic manner that doesn't serve me or anybody else around me because it's made me cranky? Because Bethany is about self-care and the dog is about loyalty. I'm not even talking about love here. Loyalty to self is the greatest leadership that you can show, because loyalty of self imbalance, it's not in defiance, represents leadership, because it's time for a new beginning and to have compassion for yourself as you implement something you're not used to purporting. Capricorn in its, it rules stone, it rules old age, it rules father time. It also rewards for efforts throughout those challenging dynamics. So now it's time to start. Yes, the timing is right for this new venture. A happy outcome follows your positive expectation and your focus. It's time to have compassion as you start to let go of that stoic behavior. You start to say, I don't mind being stoic, but is this road serving what I want to experience, or is there somebody else's agenda going on here? Because it's time to give birth to new ideas and to allow yourself to be the one who wins. This is looking for you to create a victory for you and to really identify your being energy. Because I want to say this. I don't believe that selfish is sort of a interesting word, because if we do not take care of the self, we become resentful of everybody who we've taken care of. And I feel like when Capricorn stands in that strong leadership of self-care is a loyalty to a dynamic of compassion, as we all as humans bang around this planet trying to figure out how to create a have versus a have not. And what I think is you're going to start to see that it's my being energy that really gives me my new beginning. It's my privilege that I give myself to be imperfect, to be fabulously flawed. And then to start to think, am I acting like a baby goat or an old goat? Because baby goats make everybody laugh. They're totally sweet and cute, and they're fun to be around. And I feel like that's where the huge transformation for Capricorn, what Pluto is breaking up, is that old stoic energy that doesn't serve us. Because when we take that energy and we apply it to the lane that we want to succeed in, then Saturn is your greatest friend. And so is Pluto, frankly, breaking up all the lies you tell to yourself that are based on somebody else's agenda. So if you're a Capricorn going through those last few degrees, you're a late-born Capricorn and you feel like Pluto's up your grill, working you over, surrender to the truth of what Pluto has to offer you. What's the deeper your truth? And allow yourself to align to that focus. It may not be easy in the beginning, so have compassion for yourself as you start that journey, and you will see victory coming. All right. Let's go into our Aquarius, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Bye, Shelley. Have a great week. All righty. Here is the 7, the major arcana, the Chariot. This is a really, really interesting card. It's very Cancerian energy, very intuitive energy. If you look at the armor on the shoulders, he's got crescent moons. The stars sit above him. So as we talk to Aquarius that rules the stars, this is an intuitiveness that offers you the balance of the polarities. And this is a time really to allow yourself to go into an intuitive energy here. And maybe it might even be, I'm going to sound so weird when I say this, but maybe Aquarius might want to spend some time stargazing this week. Maybe looking for signs and omens in the sky to help anchor you into a deeper truth is the way I want to put it. So let's look and see. I watch, I always say, oh, I watch a lot of TV. I love Skinwalker Ranch, on the History Channel, all about the aliens. But the thing I love most about watching like the weird stuff like Bigfoot and all that is being out in the stars, living in a city. Even though I'm lucky enough to live close enough to the ocean where there are some stars, there are billions and billions and billions of stars that we cannot see. And I feel like for Aquarius right now, you rule space, you rule the stars. A connection to the heavens somehow feels like it almost would bring back a sense of comfort for you. So maybe I just kind of, in my mind's eye, I'm like picturing you laying on the ground staring at the stars. I don't know. Maybe you want to try doing that this week. Maybe even, as this full moon shows up, maybe you're going to want to spend some time outside or even in the window, in the window of your home looking out at the stars. Let's see. Okay, Aquarius, our first angel is Archangel Raphael. The second is Caressa. The third is Ray. And the final is Isaiah. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the Wealth card. Caressa is being joined by the Dragon. Ray is being joined by the Letting Go card. And Isaiah is being joined by the Butterfly. Okay, Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. The sphinxes represent polarity. The human experience is polarizing. We know that one of the laws of the universe is polarization. So I want to offer it this way. I feel as if, and I really want to encourage you to do some stargazing this week. And if you can't do some stargazing, then allow yourself to meditate in a way that makes you feel connected to the universe. I don't know why I want to put it that way, but I believe there's some epiphany coming for you that will bring you a sense of harmonious wealth. And I want to offer it this way because Uranus, one of your ruling planets, is been having a conversation with Venus, which is about my self-worth, my money. It's been in and continuing to have a sort of peripheral conversation right now with the North Node. I kind of think of them as both being in the kitchen. Uranus is running the water in the sink, trying to do the dishes, while the North Node is trying to cook things up on the stove. And with all the noise around them, they can't really hear each other clearly. But as they come closer and closer together, that clarity will start to reveal itself. Now we see Venus transiting past Uranus, kind of begging to let go of the old story of anything she doesn't feel secure about. I feel as if Venus is saying, I don't always want to be measured by the beauty without, but the beauty within. So now I feel like Aquarius, you're being offered an opportunity to have an epiphany about how you really feel harmonious wealth within your life. Because I feel like this epiphany, whatever this is, whatever this being able to see the wisdom of the opposites, of the polarization of warrior pose, pushing out, creates balance. Here we have a new chapter that really gives you more happiness and makes you feel more calm about your power and your strength. And I want to offer that strength is creating your abundance, creating your resources, creating what you need to feel secure and safe in the world. Because this Cancer energy from this card makes me feel like it's a victory within the home front. Now, here we have Ray and the Angel's Advice in the Letting Go card. Those of you that have watched me for a while know that Letting Go card is Let It Go from the movie Frozen. So now my power and strength comes from my connection to spirit, and then starting to see, am I hanging on to my fears or am I actually letting them transform me? Because in the final position, we have Isaiah saying you're being protected as you give birth to new ideas. And here you're coming out of the caterpillar, out of the cocoon. You are no longer a caterpillar. You are standing in a much more beautiful position because it isn't about implementing it in the physical. It's about the strength you feel on the inside that starts to reveal itself on the outside. Everything in this spread feels like it plays a lot to that Sagittarius moon, where I'm philosophically thinking of things differently. I'm willing to go in a new direction. I'm willing to see how the idea that the dark serves the light serves the dark. And now I'm willing to go into a more intuitive place and to trust, almost like this a soul's path that is illuminated by the topography of the stars that were and how they were set at the time of your natal birth. And then I kind of want to go back to the idea of Juan mentioning that his progressed, I believe it was his progressed son or progressed descendant, was going into Sagittarius, because as Aquarius allows for this sort of path of evolution, I feel like there's an inner strength that grows within you, that comes out in a way that feels like an invitation to others. All right, let's go on to our Pisces, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. That's very interesting. I always think, the 12th house also represents karmic connections. All right. Pisces, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Something is coming to a conclusion. There will be, and this is what a full moon will do. While I'm not focusing on the Sagittarius full moon because I've already done that video, you can check it out. I will say that there feels like something is coming to a conclusion when it has to do with the Chiron Mars connection, as they become conjunct on Tuesday, and they're going to kind of hang out that way. At the same time, Mercury on Tuesday is moving into Gemini, and we have the full moon happening. So I think that there is a real possibility that Pisces comes to some sort of realization, an epiphany. I don't think this is news coming to you. It feels like it's news that comes through you, but let's see what Spirit has to say. Our first angel for Pisces is Mystique. The second is Archangel Gabriel. The third is Yvonne. And the final is Fiona. Sometimes when we have been calling forth a new experience, we don't think about how one thing has to end. So if we want to be in a marriage, then our singlehood ends. If we want to be a parent, then our autonomy ends. There's always a give and a take. So let's see where this is coming. Mystique is being joined by the fire fairy. Archangel Gabriel is being joined by the forgiveness card. Yvonne is being joined by the owl. And Fiona is being joined by the burden card. Okay, so Pisces is a mutable sign. We know that. Pisces, can sometimes be subject to illusion, to fantasy, because it gets scared. Sometimes Pisces, when it's scared, it swims away. So I want to offer this because this really does feel like something's coming to a conclusion. Some news is coming that brings something to an end. But I want to offer this way. Your job in this respect is to keep charging ahead to that place where what you want to experience rather than what you have experienced. I feel like the vulnerability that Pisces must display is being able to see a version of their future that hasn't played out in the real world that may seem like a fantasy to some. But maybe it's not a fantasy, because when we put an intention out there, when we put focused thought out there, things can be created that we can't really imagine, because the human will tell you, well, you didn't work hard enough. And how are you going to do that? The how is never the first step. The first step is the alignment of thought. Then there's the waiting for an inspired, and I don't want to say waiting, it's intending, expecting an inspiration that will then lead you into an action that will take you to the next step. Because Archangel Gabriel is talking about communication and insecurity, and there's the forgiveness card. Forgiveness is never forgiveness. It's the understanding of a disruption and how it serves me and a higher vibration. So somewhere, as Pisces continues to charge ahead to the bigger picture of what they want, and doesn't let this news derail them, but rather see it as a natural step. then I see how somehow something in my everyday life that's coming to a conclusion, while it sparks a sense of insecurity, I get it. Oh, I get it. Because now Yvonne, in the angel's advice, is asking you to be vulnerable to this change. On some level, whatever this ending is, you knew it was coming, and now you get to choose where you're going to fall, on faith or fear. Am I going to see the wisdom of the situation, or am I going to lie to myself and say, if that would have been better, I wouldn't have to walk through this unknowing? And I feel like the unknowing is really calling Pisces to set an intention. And rather than looking at that intention in a cooperative way with another human, hence the yin and the yang, this sort of mutable energy that works with others, this is rather connecting with spirit and looking at them as your baton passer. Because the burden right now feels like it comes in that I've asked God and the angels for help, and yes, it hasn't happened yet. And what I think it might be is something had to come to an ending in order for there to be a new inspiration to take you to that next place. I'm going to pull one more card for Pisces. And there we see Merlin. Alchemy, justice, and balance. I want to really emphasize for all the signs, but for Pisces right now, anything that's coming to an end, I want you to invite the universe to give you the wisdom of why that came to an end. And if indeed you'd been sort of calling forth the end, but that ending puts you in what feels like an insecure place, where will my money come from? Where will my resources come from? I want you to put spirit on task to give you a sign and an omen that all is in place. And don't make the sign so big that you can't believe it. Because if you can't believe it, you won't be able to see it when it comes across your path. Okay, let's go on to our Aries, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. This is your moment in the sun, because as your ruling planet comes up against Chiron, how are you going to process this, my little Aries? I believe there's a hero in you. Let's see what your tarot card has to say. This is the card that represents Libra energy. It represents an unknowing as we sit in uncomfortable balance. She could not be in a more uncomfortable. This looks like a freaking Survivor challenge right now. You know, when you're on Survivor and you have to stand on that little like thing forever in a day and your legs start shaking. But I think on some level, when I look at the crescent moon here, I feel like this woman is sitting in energy of uncomfortable balance as she's waiting for that moon to illuminate something. So now let's take this idea that Aries, we have a Sagittarius full moon this week. And as we walk through this full moon, what will it allow us to see in the way of our wound and the warrior coming together in reconciliation? Where can you look at your wound and say, if I hadn't had this wound, I would not be able to be as present in this moment? One of the things as an Aries rising that I have discovered is that my wound is my gift. If it wasn't for all the crap that happened in my life, it would not have propelled me to seek answers. And then my chart reveals my predisposition, my intention to walk through a Plutonian lifetime where it would be constantly excavated, the deeper lies I tell myself. Pluto went and transited all of my personal planet. And as it makes a square now to my ascendant and to my actual Mars, I'm being asked to take my truth and now put it in a place of transformation, to truly stand in the energy of the Phoenix. So I think that's what's going on. And for Aries right now, it may be a precarious state of balance as things are going on. So let's see what they have to say. I like a monkey mind that's a bit cheeky. That is actually a vibrational upgrade to worry. So stay in cheeky. Cheeky is good. I used to love Craig Ferguson, and he'd look into the camera and say, "You cheeky monkey." And I would just get so tickled by that. I'm a 26-degree Aries rising. A lot of stuff going on for you, Jules. Okay, Here we go, Aries. Let's see. Your first angel is Opal. The second is Fiona. The third is Archangel Gabriel. And the final is Ariel. You know, it's funny. When I saw Opal today, I felt almost as if that was a viewpoint that Aries wanted people to see the child, to see the protector, to see the hero versus the villain that Mars is perpetrated to be so often. Unfairly, I must say. Okay. Opal is being joined by the Raven. Fiona's being joined by the Fire Fairy. Archangel Gabriel's being joined by the Joy card. And Ariel's being joined by the Earth Fairy. I want to offer this to my Aries, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. As Chiron, transiting Chiron is going to be going through Aries for a while. Mars is going to zip on by. We know that. But it's at the 15th degree when they will come together and have a very strong conversation about how I think. The 15th degree is the Gemini degree, is the monkey mind. So now I want to start to think of, am I contributing to the idea that people think I'm a warrior? Am I contributing to the idea that Aries is difficult and aggressive and assertive and people find that distasteful? Or am I going to start to think a little bit differently about how I show up? Am I going to think of myself as the team player? You know, Aries would rule football teams and teams of firefighters and teams of EMTs, emergency medical people, and people who go into emergency situations. I think the timing is right. It's a magical time for Aries to start to rewrite your own definition of yourself and to start to think of yourself the way God does. You know, the way that the universe and source thinks of you as a hero. And a hero sometimes has got to be a little bit rogue to make things happen, because here we see your ruling fairy, the fire fairy, asking you to start thinking more creatively about what's going on in your life. And if you are in a pause of some kind, in a precarious state of balance, then this is an opportunity for you to trust that God and the angels, the universe, is working to re-inspire you into joy within your community. I almost want to take this out of the actual speaking and put this into the idea of Gemini rules the third house, and it rules teams, and Aries would be part of a team when you think of it as a gladiator or as a sports figure. So here we start to see Aries having more joy as the angels bring in this inspired idea that working with others and others starting to see you from a different perception, because here we have the Earth Fairy bringing something into the physical experience, but that has only in some ways been, you know, this is the connection to the angelic realm. And Aries would represent the Knights Templars, the spiritual warriors. And I think now there is something going on where that as Mars and Chiron come together, there is an understanding in the way I think that allows me a privilege of seeing my wound as a valiant wound, or as a wound of valor. And as I, rather than hanging on that wound and constantly focusing on it, seeing it as the platform that propelled me into my hero-ness, that propelled me into being brave as I go into a situation that appears fiery. Because I think that this has happened. And now as I sit in this Two of Swords, this Libra energy, there's the potential that you may, as you sit in this sort of receptive energy of understanding that your wound has served you, and now you're being Marsy in the sense of being able to tell a deeper truth, then a lot of those hard edges start to become tools. So rather than stabbing something, that knife becomes a tool to cut through the BS, and you become a much stronger leader. Okay, that's that. Let's go on to our final sign, Taurus, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Lots of stuff going on for Taurus. All right, let's see. Our final tarot card is the Sun. This is beautiful. You know, oftentimes this character, this young child, is considered Apollo, you know, sort of naked and vulnerable, but also very powerful. And the Sun represents Leo. This is a victory card. Everything is growing here, Taurus. This is a wonderful energy for you. Let's see what direction this is going to be focused in on, because again, we're seeing Venus that rules Taurus going through the sign as it meets the North Node. It's had a conversation with Uranus, asking, you know, Venus has said to Uranus, I'm tired of these old stories of me being insecure. I don't want to be insecure anymore. And Uranus is saying, well, how do you individualize yourself? How do you see yourself as how do you make your obstacles your opportunities? That would be very forward thinking. And that's what Uranus does. And the North Node is making me voracious to come in cooperation with my deeper truth. And if I'd never sat in a place of insecurity, how would I know when I felt secure? And my security comes not because I'm not vulnerable, but because I've learned how to be open-hearted. When I look at this character, I can't help but think, if you ride a horse bareback, or if you're in a river rafting situation, the whole key to not falling off the horse or not falling out of the boat is a certain amount of flexibility. Now, what is Taurus? A fixed sign that doesn't demonstrate flexibility very easily. Let's see where we have some flexibility and vulnerability. Fiona, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving divine guidance. Archangel Raphael offers a healing, a balancing. Opal, God is in charge of your children, your dreams, your hopes. And there's Shanti, the angel of peace. I love it. All right. Taurus, Fiona is being joined by the spider. Archangel Raphael has been joined by the letting go card. Opal's being joined by the horse. And Shanti is being joined by the burden card. Okay. So this is my little bit of a challenge with Taurus is Taurus, you rule history, you know, so does Saturn as a planet, but as a house, Taurus rules my personal history. It's where my security comes from. It's where my self-worth comes from. So this is a time to be vulnerable to a new picture of yourself and allow the sun to shine and make things grow. When I look at this, I think now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving a partnership. This is companionship. This is friendship. This is a network of people that around you that support you. And you may not feel that you've had that for a while because, you know, when we look at how the world has been, it's been very depriving, very drying. And now is a time to really allow yourself to have this epiphany. Have I been staring at my fears too much? Am I willing to let my fears transform into something that empowers me? Because in the angel's advice, it's time to start to go in a new direction. And this new direction is really to work through the idea that if I'm going to feel powerful, will I feel powerful if I just sit in how I am, or do I need some obstacle to walk through or some challenge in order for me to see my power, to see my tenacity, to see my bullishness, to make it through? Because I think now there's a little something here that's telling me that in order for you to feel peace, you're going to have to let go of your burden. And the burden is your history, the story you come from. And if you continue to repeat that story, how is the universe going to give you a different experience? Because the universe is a computer that thoughts become things. And this is why when you have a heavy fixed energy in your chart, it's not to tank you. It's actually to design an epiphany so that you can hang in that fixed energy and help support others move forward. If we think about Taurus and the idea that it's ruled by Venus, we don't want to be just thought of as valuable because of our beauty or because, you know, I kind of feel like if I take the more shallow dynamics of what Venus offers in Taurus and I elevate those things, okay, I start to think that my voice is viable at any age. My beauty is viable at any age as I see my joy and as I allow myself to see my divinity and how my history works to empower me versus to take me under. Because now is a time to really know that your connection to spirit, your willingness to allow an epiphany, it will stick. But the challenge is will you choose peace or will you choose the old story over and over and over again? Now, I want to go back to the idea that the brain is branded. The brain is an organ within the human body that serves a function. It is not something you choose. While you may choose certain thoughts and have a certain amount of influence, you don't have 100% of influence over it. So when you don't fight against the pattern, but actually engage spirit to give you a new perception to the pattern, then you can start to shift it. I really believe that this is about standing in leadership for yourself. I believe that there is the potential of unexpected relationships to appear for people with this, a lot of influence in this Taurus energy. And this is to be excited. This is something to be excited about. And it's something to also recognize that when the experience comes into your physical world, are you going to now process it through an old place, or are you going to allow the universe to give you and for you to have a new empowered thought about it? So let me just kind of wrap it up like this. If when Taurus gets into a relationship, suddenly, oh, well, love them and leave them, or I always get this, I always get that, blah, blah, blah in relationships, now is an opportunity to have an inspired idea that's different. Because when are you going to give life to the idea that that which you crave, you must also agree to experience? Because if you keep going back to your history, it's going to be a hell of a hard time for you to feel peace. Okay, that's it for this week. Little long today. Sorry, guys. There's a lot going on in the stars that is really divinely guided to disrupt the nonsense and bring forth the reward. So keep your eye on the prize. I'll be back next Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time. I hope you'll join me. Thank you to Juan and Small Wildflowers for always being so steadfast and so available to our group and to our tribe, and for all the love and high vibrational energy they bring to the room. Thank you to all of you who come every week and participate in the ripple effect of balance on this planet. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. And now I'm going to go get some lunch. Peace out. See you next week, everybody. Bye.